Bags down, spikes on. Welcome to the track. Hi, I'm your host, Colin Waitsman, and I'm going to be diving into this episode of Track World News here with Marybeth Sant-Price. She is your bronze medalist in the Indoor World Championships in the 60-meter dash, PR of a 10.95 and a 7.04. Marybeth, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Before we go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. As track athletes, we're going to be running tons of miles every week and can be really sweaty and gross after a hard day of practice, but those days are behind us. Manscaped just sent me their brand new performance package, which comes with the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. Look, I've tried a lot of razors in my day, but the Lawnmower 4.0 is just different. Its ceramic blade helps reduce grooming accidents, LED light allows you to shave anytime, anywhere, and since it's waterproof, you can even take it in the shower if you want. When shopping with Manscaped, use code TWN at checkout to get 20% off your entire order, plus free shipping worldwide. Show up to your next meet looking good. If you want to be the best, you gotta look the best. Link is in the description, and now back to the video.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Definitely. It should be a really good one for sure. And before we get into any of your track and field stuff, we definitely had a few off the track type questions and things that people were a little bit interested in as well. So understand you were a journalism major. I think you were also a writer as well. What got you interested in writing? Any types of books that you most enjoy or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, as a little girl, it's kind of funny to say out loud, but I would start out in my diary. Like I would just write in my diary, and writing was always my best subject in school. And I really just enjoyed it. I enjoy, putting my thoughts down on paper, and I feel like I can articulate my thoughts better that way. And I don't know, I just love writing and telling a story, and I've always loved it since I was little.
Yeah, I still have one for myself. I call it like the spark notes to my life. Just like whenever I got something going, to be able to look back at it, in a couple of years from now, like, oh man, that's what's going on. Do you still do that as well? Like, do you might have like a diary or a notepad that you might take down, some thoughts?
I don't do it as much, which I think I should, and I probably should, because it's good to write your thoughts down. I don't do it as much, but I definitely, when I'm feeling inspired or want to get my feelings out, I write. So, yeah.
And I saw also in the world's greatest, the little super doc, you also mentioned how when you were 10, you thought you might have been the world's best songwriter. Do you have any of those songs left? Could we see, I don't know, maybe Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, anyone like that potentially, performing some of the songs you're writing?
Yeah, no, I literally thought that I was going to be the next songwriter and singer, which is not the case. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe Jay Biebs will pick up one of my songs.
Well, who knows? We'll have to see. If you could write like an album, a song, or whatever for any artist, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Wow, that's a really good question. I would probably say Halsey. I love her, and I think her voice, she's just amazing. She can tell a story with her voice, and I would definitely love to write for her.
Oh, yeah, you would fall right in with a lot of my friend group. They say the exact same thing. It's like head over heels over her. She's been doing wonders. So no, yeah, that'll be cool. So if we ever see like in Marybeth in the credits, you know who it is, or maybe an MB, we know it's you.
Exactly.
There we go. And before track and field, you actually were a pretty good soccer player as well. Did I see you're on the national team as like on that? Like how did you get up to being at such an elite level at soccer? Before even starting track and field.
Yeah, I mean, I was always in sports growing up my whole entire life, and I started out with dance and gymnastics, and probably I started soccer really young, but probably when I was in middle school is when I started to do really well. And I played for a club called Real, and there's different ranks, and I, played for the national team. And I fell in love with soccer. So for a while, soccer was the only sport that I did. And yeah, just being in sports my whole life, that was kind of what got me going.
Do you still follow soccer very often? Do you have any favorite teams or clubs?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. And obviously Team USA, but I have a good friend who plays for Team Canada. And so I secretly root for them. Yeah, I love watching professional soccer. I watch it all day long. I love it.
Awesome. Oh, very cool. Very cool. And so you grew up in Colorado, and I was taking a look at some of Valor Christian. It looks like, were you in the same grade as Christian McCaffrey, or did you go to school with him as well, the Panthers running back?
Yes, I went to school with Christian. Yes, we actually dated for like 4 years. So.
Oh, wow! I had no idea.
Oh yeah, I guess fun fact about me. But yeah, no, he was a year younger than me, but we went to school together. I transferred there my sophomore year. I went to like a public school before then, and then went to Valor, and yeah.
There you go. Well, so got some elite athletes coming out of Valor. So definitely,
Yes.
definitely pretty cool for sure. And so, looking back at your track and field career, like where I guess we'll begin at the beginning for you. Like, where did you get started when it comes to running and everything like that?
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I started out in soccer, and my soccer coach, was like, we should put a relay together. Our fastest girls on the team, or we should do a 4x1 relay. So we did a 4x1 relay, and I did the open 100. And it was my first track meet ever. I think I was 10 at the time. And so I ended up winning and beating the best girl in the state. And so Tony Wells, he had a track club called the Colorado Flyers. And he, after that race, invited me to join the Colorado Flyers, and then the rest is history from there.
Wow. So was it just a first love? Like you fell right into it? Because I know some people, it's for many it's the backup plan for track and field. And it's like, I'll just kind of do this on the side. But for you, was it kind of like instant, like something you really enjoyed?
Yes and no. I mean, I loved it. I loved running, but it was definitely a second choice with soccer. I love soccer, and I even had to sit down with my parents, and they were like, all right, soccer in Colorado and soccer and track in Colorado are both in the spring, so it was just really hard to do both, and I ended up choosing soccer, and then kind of had second thoughts, and I was like, all right, maybe I should do the track thing. So I ended up choosing track ultimately.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Colorado is usually really known well for a lot of distance runners. A lot of distance runners will go there, and really strong distance programs, for that. Did you find it any, difficult or, of being hey, actually, I'm going to kind of go against the, what a lot of people do when it comes to track and go into sprinting here?
Honestly, no, it was just because I was fast, and I tried hurdles, I tried long jump, I tried a couple different events, and I wasn't bad at them. I was an athlete, but sprinting had my heart, and I had the most potential in that, so that's what I stuck with.
There you go. And then you actually originally kind of started out your college career in 2013, going out to Eugene, starting out there. Was that a difficult choice to go farther away from home, or what did your recruiting process kind of look like? So I know you're you're the top sprinter in high school in America there, so I'm sure you had the pick of the litter for where it was that you wanted to go. What did that recruiting process kind of look like for you going out of high school?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the recruiting process coming out of high school. In my opinion, sets you up for a lot of things in life. I mean, you get to you're kind of interviewing other people, and you're navigating what you think is going to be best for your future. And it was kind of overwhelming at some points in the process, but it was a really cool thing to go through. And I actually was not going to take a visit to Oregon. I had my heart set on TCU, and it was last minute. My parents were like, "Hey, like I think you should just go. Weigh out all of your options." And so I went. I fell in love with the program. All the stuff that they had. Like it's a high quality program. And so sitting on the plane coming home, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna be a Duck."
Mm-hmm. The facilities, I haven't been able to be out there, but it's been, really cool. Like, was it when you came back, this past year, with the renewed, building, I know you were there with old Hayward, and now it's the new Hayward, did it still have a similar type of feel, or was it kind of, pretty different from when you used to be there?
Honestly, pretty different. I mean, it looks completely different. Hayward Magic, you'll always get that kind of same feel when you're in Eugene. But it is really different. And what I thought was cool about it from my own experience was, I had a rough time at Oregon. I got hurt. That's where I ended up, medically retiring from the sport for a while. So I felt like I was able to come back and make it my own and make it something new with the next chapter. So that was really cool about the new track. And it's beautiful. It is a great facility. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's like being able to kind of like reclaim that part of your story. Like, hey, this was the first part didn't go as I would have loved it to, but now like we're developing and getting better at that. Like, could you kind of touch on what happened with your medically retiring? Like, a lot of people may not realize like how serious it was at what point. Like, what led up to it, and kind of what was going through your mind, not just physically, but mentally, as you're hearing all these things from doctors and other professionals.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the hardest times in my life. Like you said, I came out of high school as one of the best recruits, and I was ready to have a successful collegiate career. And near the middle to end of my freshman year, I was having a pretty good year, and I started to have pain in my right foot, and it was broken. We found out that it was broken, and I ended up having to run on a broken foot, and it was horrible and painful. And then that summer, I took some time off, tried to heal. Sophomore year, came back, broke it 2 more times. So I ended up breaking my foot 3 times. I ended up stress fracturing my left shin. So it was just constant pain. My body was just never healthy. I could never give it my all, and I was just constantly in pain. So the doctor suggested that I get a bone density scan, because having all these stress fractures is really rare in a sprinter. Like, you see it in distance runners and things like that. But so it came back, and I was diagnosed with osteopenia, which is weak bones pretty much. And it's another rare thing, especially in a young person and in a sprinter. So we had a talk, and he suggested that I medically retire. And, at that age, going through all those injuries and just constantly being in pain, I didn't question it. I didn't fight back. I was just like, okay, because mentally I was done too. I was done being in pain and trying to prove myself, and I just kind of agreed to it. And so, yeah, I sat out, didn't touch a track for 3 years.
Jeez, like, so you're leaving as a sprinter, like, those are some really key like years. What were like 2021, something like that?
Yeah, so I believe it was from my 2016 to 2018 were those like the years that I was, or 2015 to 2018. And then that's when I transferred to Colorado State in 2018. But yeah, those are crucial developmental years as well. I mean, when you're in college and you're developing, and I missed out on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking back, like, what do you think if you could flash back to your old self, like right at, like, you get out of that doctor's office where he's saying, hey, you have to medically retire, and like you could flash back and say, hey, by the way, you're going to actually win a bronze medal in the world championships in, what is it, 6-7 years from now, you're not going to be retired. What do you think yourself would, say if you heard that?
you're crazy. um, there, I couldn't have dreamed of it. I mean, and I knew then, and like, as I know now, I knew then how talented I was and the caliber of athlete that I was, but I legitimately thought I was done. And so even the years that I just decided to come back my first year, I didn't believe that I was going to get to where I am now and get back to, my potential. So yeah, I would tell myself that I was crazy.
What because I know recently we've seen a lot of focus on the mental health aspect of athletics and just sports, and how you're putting your body through a lot and your mind's going through a lot as well. Like, what kind of was going on in your head? Was it difficult? Did you find difficult days mentally going through hey, I went from being at this top level and now I'm injured and not really able to kind of perform the way that I'd like to?
Yeah, I mean, it took a huge toll on my mental health, and at times I was definitely depressed, and it was hard to go through every day. I almost felt like I was, during those 3 years, I almost felt like I was living a lie, because track was who I was, honestly. Like, that's where I found my purpose, and then it just got ripped out from underneath me, and I had to figure out who I was in my young 20s at that, without that. And it was a shock to my system. And even when I did start back, my first year was a rust buster. I had been out for 3 years and I struggled then too. I was like, is this worth it? Like, did I make the right decision? Should I just stop? So yeah, it was really difficult.
What was that first race back like? When you were lining up on the line, were there any nerves? Like, what was it like when you're finally coming back? Do you remember the race that it was, when you first came back?
I do, yeah. So it was at the Air Force Academy. It was my first indoor race back. We at the collegiate level, you start in January for the indoor season, and it was at the Air Force Academy, and I was so nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I ran 7:48, I believe, 7:48 or 43. It was exhilarating. It was so fun to be back, but it was also so many questions. So much of it was unknown, and yeah, just all of the emotions were flowing through my body.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a whirlwind. Like, oh, I'm glad that I finally got on the track and got through healthy and didn't have to worry about it. And so you came back at Colorado State. Is that like how far away from where you were from? Is that pretty close? Like, were you near family, or what went to the decision of Colorado State?
So no, where I grew up, Colorado State's about an hour and a half, so it's far away. And my family actually, after I graduated from high school, they moved to Florida, so I didn't have a family here. And the deciding factor to come back to Colorado State was, I remember how supportive they were recruiting me in high school, and how much the sprints coach believed in me. And I just wanted that. I wanted to feel like somebody believed in me, and somebody other than myself knew that I wasn't done. And that was the main deciding factor. And Colorado was a comfort to me as well. I grew up there, so that played a role as well.
There you go. I'm also really curious. So it's like, I've noticed in your sprinting or your start, you have both knees on the ground when you start versus many of the others that usually have the one. Where did that technique kind of come from? And is there any reasoning behind the unique start when you're getting lining up on the blocks?
Yeah, I mean, it's all I've known. Tony Wells, that was his start technique, and it is all I know. I haven't done it. They do that at Oregon as well, so I didn't have to transition going to Oregon. So even while I was at Oregon, that's how I did it. And yeah, it was just his technique growing up. And Tony Wells he was a pretty big name in track. He spoke at seminars. A lot of coaches knew about his program, and I did try the one knee up my first year back at Colorado State, and I hated it. It just felt so awkward to me. And I'm sure vice versa, there's people who do the 1 knee up and they try the double and they're like, what? But yeah, I mean, it's all I know, so.
Yeah, I remember watching one of the first races here this indoor season, and I saw like you had the 2 knees down. I watched it. I was like, oh, that must have just been a mistake. I don't know. I must have just seen it wrong. She didn't actually do it. And then like did it like the next race. It was like the prelim and the final. I'm like, oh no, wait. No, that's just what she does. Oh, okay. It's taking me aback a little bit. Have you ever ran into many other athletes that do that, or are you usually the only athlete on the line when you're with the 4-point start?
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple others. Like Grant Holloway does it. Anna Hall. Most of the sprinters I think at USC and Oregon do it as well. So there's some of us here and there.
There you go. So you're not completely alone.
Yeah.
That's good. And so this season was a real great, awesome breakout season for you, both indoors and outdoors. And first coming out and being able to win a world championship, being bronze world championship medal. Like, what was the indoor season like? Because you started off hot, with the world lead. And I know a lot of the commentators, friends of mine were like, who's this girl? Like, who's starting off warm? Like, what was that indoor season like for you here?
It was crazy, honestly. Like you said, I just started out hot, and from there, it was like the momentum just kept going. And this was my second year in the program that I'm in. My coach, his name is Chuck Duguay, based out of Denver. He grew up with Tony Wells as well. So it was my second year with him, and I just think I started to reap the benefits of my first year, and I got that base, and it was, you start to see athletes progress when they're in a program for 2 to 3 years. And so I knew I had it. I knew that it was in me, but I just started to reap the benefits from it, from working hard and staying consistent. But it was crazy. I had to stay focused with all the, everything going on around me, and it was fun and wild for sure.
Yeah, I've always been interested, like with pro athletes, especially like yourself, like you're getting a lot of requests and people reaching out and wanting to, you're being talked about on social media, the media, like all that type of stuff. Like, how is it that you kind of stay focused, but also you have a life, which is social media is a part of the life, many people's lives. Like, how is it that you kind of, don't get too swayed from one side to another, with all the stuff going on?
It's hard because it's easy to just like mindlessly read the comments, and you can take that in and it can be really harsh on you mentally. You just gotta stay grounded. And my biggest thing was knowing, I've matured and I know who I am now, and I think that's a big aspect of it, but you just gotta turn it off. You have to be able to push it to the side and focus on what you can control. And that's all you can do, really. But yeah, with social media, so many people have so much to say, good and bad, and it's crazy, and you have to be able to process what you want and be able to navigate that.
Oh yeah, know exactly what you mean, because I am one of those people that have a lot to say. So I definitely know what you mean. There's a lot of people, you got to kind of try to put the blinders on a little bit there. And so what was it like, when you crossed through the finish line at USA's and you realized, oh snap, I'm going to my first major world championship? Like, what was that feeling, right after, you realize that you're on the team?
A little bit of a relief. I'm not gonna lie. The championship, to get on the team, I think is the hardest part, especially being from the US. And so I felt relieved, but it was so exhilarating. I remember my heart was pounding. I walked into the warm-up area afterwards with the biggest smile on my face. I was so excited. I was ready. Just one feeling that I won't forget for sure.
Who was the first person you called right after you finished the race to let know or talk to or anything like that?
So my husband and my mom and dad and my coach were there. So I didn't have to call them. If they weren't there, it probably would have been my husband. But I remember I called my sister. She was the first person to call. And Dior Hall, I grew up with her. She was in the Tony Wells program as well. She's a hurdler. She was the first person I saw at the finish line, and I just gave her the biggest hug.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, it's good to have the support group around you, especially with other athletes. And then what was the World Championship? You know, like what was that like? You know, the lead up, and then, you know, coming home with some hardware as well.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I think that the lead up was probably the hardest on me mentally, just because it's the unknown, you know, the long travel. That was probably the biggest thing, was me being anxious about the long travel. But once I got there, I was able to kind of relax. You know, you're with the team, you're with the coaches, and they took care of you. And it was fun to be with the team. And I liked having to step outside of my comfort zone. You know, no family was there, no coaches were there. And I think it challenged me in the best ways.
And obviously everybody, you know, wants to go in and win. Like if you're not going in wanting to be the champion, then you might be in the wrong event. You might not be doing the right thing. So what was the feeling though of, you know, you didn't come home with the win, unfortunately, but you did still get to bring home some hardware. Like what are the emotions going through with that, you know, when you're bringing home a medal, even though it may not be the color that you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I think a lot of people don't really understand that part of it. It's like, you won a world medal. Like, you should be so happy. There's some disappointment there, you know? Like, everybody wants the gold. And I know that I was capable of the gold, and everyone there was capable of the gold. And there's some disappointment there. So you kind of have to navigate and, like, go through those thoughts. And I feel like at first I was a little disappointed, still excited, still happy, still thrilled. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you always want to be better. And I think that's what makes us who we are and how good we are, is we're never satisfied.
When you looked back at some of the tape from the race, did you go like hit your head like, oh man, if I just did this, I could have been there? Like, did you, like, what happened when you first looked back at the tape from it?
Yes, I did that over and over. I still do it. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I just did this. The first thing I saw was, if I just drove for 3 more steps, the outcome could have been different. If I leaned a little bit more, the outcome could have been different. If I stayed controlled and leaned a little bit later, like, there's so much to it. And in the 60, you know, there's no room for error. It's blink of an eye. So I definitely did that. Still do. So yeah.
Yeah, I was a pole vaulter in college and everything. So similar thing, looking back at like my vaulting tapes, I'm like, just bring your hips in just a little bit. You're clearing this bar. You set a PR. It's like, so just like beating so know exactly what you mean. It's like just looking at it, and like I try not to look at the big bars that I missed, because I'm like, dang, I know, just do a little bit more and it could be good. So know exactly what you're talking about. So then outdoors, you know, going through the regular season, you progressed almost like pretty consistently throughout the year. You know, by the end, you know, coming out, going sub 11 for the first time. Like, you know, what was that like? You know, I think back-to-back meets, if I'm correct, you know, down to 1095. Like, how did it feel to be able to break that barrier, which is a, you know, a pretty big one when it comes to the sprinting events?
Yeah, amazing. I think that, like you said, breaking 11 is the barrier in the 100 for women, and it was amazing. It honestly felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, because I knew it was there, and I kept progressing each race, and it was like, okay, just put your head down and keep going. Put your head down and keep going. And then when I clocked the 1095, it was a great feeling. And then right after, I clocked a 1096, and then the following week a 1099 and another 1099. So it really made me aware of kind of where I'm at and my consistency, and that comes with confidence as well. So it really boosted my confidence for next season and made me excited. Yeah.
And then looking at USA's for you, I mean, what kind of things did you take away from that? I mean, I'm sure there were positives. I'm sure there were areas of improvement. Like when you're looking back at that series of races, what are some things that you can take upon and then work on for next year, like you had mentioned just a second ago?
Yeah, a lot. I was able to take away a lot. I've never been able to really analyze as soon as I crossed the line what I did wrong, but I was able to at USA's. And I think the bottom line, it comes down to getting in more competitive races, getting in those races where you are feeling pressure and you know what to do with that pressure and getting comfortable with that pressure. Because I didn't experience that as much this season as I needed to. And I think going into next season, my coach and I know that, and we know what we need to do.
And something that's been interesting, we'll get into the second half of it in a bit with our fan questions, but you've been going through this process, as one of the bigger unsponsored free agent athletes currently. I know we see you and Lele are two of kind of like the big names right now of like, people that are, pretty, doing extraordinarily good and still, looking for that. Like, what's been some of the difficulties or, that of going through, being a professional athlete and still looking for, one of those major sponsorships for yourself?
Yeah. There are so many difficulties. I could sit here and go on and on. I think the biggest thing is that it's very discouraging. You're lining up with these people who have support next to their name. They have a sponsor. They have someone who was like, yeah, we believe in you enough to sign you, to support you. And I'm unattached, and it weighs on you. And I had to work a full-time job and train full-time to support myself. And my husband has to do the same. And that has been really hard. But I think that I've learned in this sport that you need to be able to advocate for yourself and think outside the box. And I've been lucky enough to find support actually from Ray's, my first interview from Ray's take. I had somebody reach out to me who wanted to work with me. They're called Tracks Church, and it's really just, I get to compete and they want to support me and help me in any way. So that's opened a lot of doors. And I think that advocating for yourself and coming on podcasts and talking to people is the biggest way for these unsponsored athletes.
Yeah, need to put your name out there and be, let people know, what's going on. Cause like as a fan, if you're just looking at the line, you see everyone in the uniforms, you may not realize like, oh, this person isn't, you might just see the colors of the uniforms, especially with Nikes. It's just a plain uniform. There's not a crazy designs anymore. So it might be difficult to know. And so it's when you bring these things up, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Why is the person that has a medal not, receiving anything, but, others maybe. So I think bringing the attention to that can be fulfilling for sure. Have you spoken at much with, Lele, Alicia Johnson, the hurdler, for those that may not know that's listening? Have you guys talked a lot? Because I know that she's been a pretty big advocate for, herself as well. I don't know if you guys have chatted very much.
Yeah, her and I love Lele. She's my girl, and we talk quite a bit. And we have talked quite a bit about the topic and, what she's going through. And we bond with that, and we kind of, honestly, when I need to just vent, I call her. When I'm feeling discouraged, when I'm seeing other things on social media, I know that she's also going through it, and so we lean on each other in that.
There you go. Well, it's great, especially have a support system that's going through it. Exactly. I'm sure like you call and she's like, girl, I was just about to call you. So you see the same stuff there. And that kind of goes into some of the fan questions that we have. So first one, since it's kind of on the topic, this was from Justin Stuckey. He said, how have the talks with Lululemon been progressing?
Yeah. So, definitely tweeting at them was out of my comfort zone, very out of my comfort zone. I'm usually kind of stay under the radar and just kind of keep my head down, but I have gone through this season, like I said, dealing with this, and luckily I have the support that I have from my family and track church and all of that. But I'm like, something needs to change. So that tweet, actually, I have my first meeting with them on Monday. So nothing's changed. I don't know what to expect. Really just feeling this out and seeing how it goes.
There you go. Well, stepping out of the comfort zone, that's the first thing too. I mean, for me, that's kind of how I got started with this. I'm like, man, do I really want to talk to a bunch of strangers about track and field? Like, they're gonna call me out. I'm gonna be an idiot. I'm gonna look like an idiot in front of the entire world. But it's like, oh wait, it can end up being a good thing. So it's like, in the moment might be a little tension, but who knows? So
yeah,
good luck.
Thank you.
There you go. Next one, this is from Caroline Runs. She says, what was the stuffed animal that they gave you at Worlds?
So in Serbia, I guess they are known for their plums and their raspberries. Like, I guess they grow them locally. So the boys got the plums and the girls got the raspberries. And so my little guy is a pink raspberry. And funny enough, my dog loves it. And I have to, he'll like go and try to like get it off the shelf or wherever it is, and I'm like, you can't have that. And so I get it out of his mouth and like put it back. So it's pretty funny.
Did you have any of the raspberries or plums while you're in Serbia, or not as much?
I wish, but no, I didn't get to. I don't know if they were in season or not.
Yeah, it was winter. Yeah, so duh, of course, it was indoor track. There's no reason, of course it's not gonna be open. Next one, this was from Cedric. He said, when did you make the decision to become a full-time athlete?
Probably 2019. And then obviously 2020 happened. And so it's that another year. But 2019 was probably where I was like, yeah, I can do this as a professional.
Was it like a long kind of decision that you thought of, or was it pretty immediate for you?
No, it was pretty immediate. I mean, I had been dreaming of this since I was 10. Like, as a little girl, I've always wanted to be at the big stage and compete with the best and represent USA. So it was a pretty easy, mindless decision for me, honestly.
There you go. Yeah, when you get the talent, it's like you're only going to be in the ability to be a professional athlete for so long, so gotta kind of hop on that for sure. And then last one, this is from Aaliyah Hill. She says, who is your best friend?
Not Aaliyah Hill. Just kidding, it's Aaliyah Hill. That's my best friend.
There you go. So got some family, or got some friends coming through. Any fun stories with you and Aaliyah that you can think of? I know putting you on the spot here, but I don't know if there's any that sticks out of mind.
There's so many. I don't even know where to begin. She is way taller than me. Like, I'm really little. She's really tall. She was a pole vaulter at CSU.
Pole vaulter. There we go. Love it.
Yeah. And so, honestly, really, anytime we go out, it's just like, we're so different. And she just kind of like holds me in her arms. Sometimes, like, she just picks me up out of nowhere, and everyone's like, what are these girls doing? I don't know. I guess that's a funny story.
There we go. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Marybeth. It's been awesome hearing a little bit about your story. Where could people go if they wanted to, learn a little bit more about you on social media or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can always follow my Instagram @_MVPrice. You can follow my Twitter. You can always, my DMs are always open. If you guys have any questions, want to know more about me, you can always reach me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marybeth. And thank you to everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Track World News. If you want more content, go follow us over on Instagram @Track World News. We post almost daily over there. That's going to do it for us. Have a good one. Peace.